So one weird thing about me, I have like an arbitrary bragging rights about all the classic YA books that I've read. I feel like, especially because I started BookTube and I started reading a lot of YA around 2013, 2012, when I see lists of like the most classic YA books and YA books that everyone has read, you know, those like check off the lists of which ones you've read, the moral superiority that I feel that I've read most of them, I really have no rights to have, because who the fuck cares? But there are a couple that I missed, that I was not interested in at the time, or I DNF'd, or never got around to. So I've been checking a couple of them out at the library. I own a couple of them still. I wanted to do a video all about reading classic YA, which I know to some classic YA would be like Anne of Green Gables and actually classic stuff, but I'm talking about things that are 10 years ago, so maybe vintage YA, I don't know. When I say I've read the classics, I've read the classics. Twilight, Hunger Games, been there. Shiver by Maggie Stiefvater, Daughter of Smoke and Bone, Legend by Marie Lu. God, what else? I mean, obviously Shatter Me, City of Bones, all the Cassandra Clare things, Jennifer L. Armentrout, like Lauren Oliver, all those authors from the mid-2010s, obsessed with them. But I want to catch up on some of the ones that I didn't read, and I'm sure that I'm gonna not like a lot of them because I'm 26 now. Who am I reading YA dystopian? But when I think of the #1 book that is ranked among the most popular YA books of all time, especially when it had the YA renaissance of the early 2010s, this is the one book that I think made it pretty huge and I never had any interest in. Red Queen. I can hear everyone screaming behind their laptops right now because I feel like this book is such a has-been, and I know the series goes downhill, yada yada yada. I never read this. I was 18, so I was like transitioning to going into college and I didn't really have time for reading as much anymore. But also, this is one of the books that I kind of stood back and listened to the reviews for it, and there were a lot of mixed reviews. So many people rating it 3 stars really threw me off, and I just never picked it up and never had any interest until now. I'm like 100 pages into it. I really like it. So this book follows a main character who's a 17-year-old coming upon her 18th birthday named Mare. Bonus points for me, the horse girl. It's not really fantasy because they have like cars and guns and stuff, and there's no map. I'm still puzzling out the world, but when you turn 18, you either get an apprenticeship doing fishing or whatever else, or you're conscripted to go into the army. And Mare is a red, which means she's just like a normal human, has red blood. But in this society, there are also silvers who have silver blood, and they all have different kinds of powers, and they are like the nobility and the royalty who live completely separately from reds, and reds are just the foundation of society. They're all the servants, and they're powerless. Literally. And obviously there's a resistance of reds who are like, we are not unequal because we're powerless. So I'm guessing that's why there's 4 books out of this, is there's gonna be this whole rebellion movement. But this is so fast paced. I am soaring through this right now. For like a fantasy-esque book with a world I thought would be pretty confusing, it's super easy to grasp. I am like looking forward to reading this. It's not a 5-star book, but I haven't read a book that has been so fast paced and so fun in a while. I was fully expecting to just read this for this video and check the box that I'd at least read the first book in the series, but never continue with the series.
I'm not gonna do it, girl.
Miss Victoria Aveyard, you might have one more fan. I'm not gonna say anything too early because again, 100 pages, a lot could happen from here. So I guarantee I'm gonna finish that within the week because it's great. That being said, there's a couple other things I either have out from the library or that I own that I want to give a try. Let's go through them briefly. I mean, I'll start with what I have out right now, then we can get into some of the other major players that I don't currently have. The Girl of Fire and Thorns by Ray Carson. I'm pretty convinced that I did try and read this back in the day. My concern is it's gonna be like an early 2000s rendition of plus size representation, which is not very accurate. It's about Elisa, who is 16. She has to be the secret wife of a king whose country is in turmoil. And then there's dark magic and enemies and prophecies. I need to get to this one first because it's due back to the library pretty soon. Actually, so is this one while we're talking about it. This one actually has a hold on it. Excuse me. I thought I was the only bitch in 2023 trying to read Red Queen. The couple that are missing that I don't own are things like Caraval or Caraval. Also, this is a huge one. Beautiful Creatures. That was a book turned movie. I feel like I would have been all over that back in the day, but I never read it. I mean, a couple of these are, I feel like I saw them all the time when I was younger. Like, I Am Number 4, the Gone series by Michael Grant, the Tiger's Curse series, Sabriel. There's a lot of YA contemporary on here too, but I think I'm gonna focus more on fantasy this time around. But yeah, I just wanted to tee this video up because I started this and I can't put it down. Is it predictable? Absolutely. But I will be definitely finishing this within a couple of days. Hi friends, we're vlogging from bed. It's been a couple of days. This is technically a day overdue at the library, but we have a grace period of 3 days, which means I'm gonna milk it. I actually got pretty far into this last night. I read for like an hour and a half. So I'm now on page 288, chapter 23. This book started out so addicting and I was like, what's gonna happen next? What's gonna happen next? It slowed down a little bit and I'm noticing more things I don't love about it. Even at the beginning when I was like, this is addicting, this is amazing, oh my god, I wasn't like in love with the characters and I did think it was predictable, but now I'm noticing that the main character, like this isn't first person, and she will sometimes very explicitly be like, this person thinks badly so he is bad and I don't like him, like to make the reader also go down that rabbit hole with her. But I'm doing my big brain thinking in the background and I'm like, this is a 4-book series, so clearly we're gonna keep being around these characters. It feels like she's not really developing any nuance into these characters, or she's trying to set you up to think a certain way, but like it's teeing up a betrayal later on in the series. I can't really put my finger on it of what feels so artificial about her character building. I don't particularly love either of the princes that are like the male main characters in this book. Hello, Hair. And like the other girl who's chosen to be a queen for the other prince is just so violent and like has no personality other than being mean. However, I do think it's pretty cunty that the main character can admit that she hates her but also wants to be her so bad. I like that this main character is honest to herself even when it turns into those moments where she's like overly explaining something to the reader. Also, there was a point in the book where she kissed a guy who like she actively on the page was like, I don't like him and this is gonna turn into nothing, but fuck it, I'll kiss him. I was like, that's actually kind of cool that this character is just like fucking around and finding out and like knows it's not like the tentative first kiss between her and her forever lover, even though it's a little bit of like emotional cheating from her betrothed. Some people might have a problem with that. I don't. So I was like, num 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 num. But yeah, I have like 100 pages of this left. I'm gonna try and finish it tonight. Partially because it's good, but partially because I have reader guilt and I'm like, I need to give this to the next person in line. Which again, I repeat, why are there people in line at the library to read this? It's been out for 10 years. Go away, it's my turn. My boss actually has read these and we talked about it, and so she lent me the next 2 books in this series. I didn't even ask for them and she brought them to me at work today. So I guess I'm continuing the series. I have no idea if I'm gonna wait to read them, which I feel like I shouldn't, because then I'm gonna forget everything that happened, that I'm not going to enjoy it. But I don't want to turn this into a Red Queen series reading vlog, so I don't know. Maybe I'll read those in the background and give you updates as I finish them. I do have therapy in 15 minutes, so I don't have that much time, but I must because it's so good. As Doja Cat once said, get into it. Yeah. I will say, if you have not read this, but you liked Violet from Fourth Wing, very similar. Which for someone who did not like Fourth Wing, that is somehow not a detriment for me. There was a plot reveal at the end of Red Queen that was so obvious now that I think about it, but I'm literally walking around my apartment crying right now. I have like 2 pages left and I need to finish this book, but I'm like, you're joking. What the fuck? Which, by the way, the betrayals at the end of this book, kind of annoying. It's like thing after thing after thing, but I forgive it for this plot reveal. Holy shit. I literally have 4 pages left. I still have more thoughts on this book, but I'm gonna have to come back to you because I'm gonna cry about it a little more.
12 seconds later.
Okay, I'm back. Still actively crying. Okay, well, just finished Red Queen. I've been saying it's predictable the entire book, right? Wrong. Part of me probably could have seen this coming if the character development wasn't so confusing, but it did have a moment toward the end of the book that was like the Hans villain reveal from Frozen. So caught off guard by like the twists of this person's good, this person's bad. There's no real clear roadmap as to what's gonna happen next though. So I'm interested in where the series goes from here. Man, my heart just hurts. But anyway, the Silvers, who are like the upper class with abilities, just came off as really stupid sometimes. I mean, I don't want to get too far into spoilers, but it's like the whole rebellion was able to succeed because they just lied to the Silvers about a lot of stuff, and the Silvers just never double checked them or like went to certain parts of the country that they thought were off limits to see if they were rebels there. Like, they were under their noses the entire book, and it's crazy that they were never found out. And then another really big plot hole was the queen of the kingdom has the ability to like go through your memories and like make you do things. Like, she can get in your mind and have control over you, but the entire book she like leaves the main character alone. Now that I'm done with the book, I kind of understand why she wouldn't have, but again, it just felt like a plot hole. I'm having all of these criticisms, but rest assured, I'm probably gonna give it like 4 stars. That was really fun to read. I am shocked that I never read this because it was really good. I would say it is inventive and fast-paced, and it's gripping. Since I have a couple more library books out, I think I'm gonna pivot my attention to one of those, and then I'll resume with this series. Okay, I think I'm gonna start Girl of Fire and Thorns, but I'm getting emotional because this book was in my library since 2011, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was a freshman in high school when this book was new and came out. I just know it's a fantasy book with a plus size main character. So knowing this book was published in 2011, she's probably like a size 14 or something. All right, I'll start this and I'll let you know what I think. I just remembered that I do in fact have a doctor's appointment tomorrow morning at 8:45. But thoughts so far. I'm on page like 20. I started reading it and was like, all of these city names and character names seem to be of a particular origin, and the author confirmed she used Spanish Morocco as the inspiration for this world because it's like in the desert and everyone's names are like Alejandro. She is a white woman from Ohio, so part of me is struggling with that a little bit, but other than that, I mean, I'm on page 20, not much here to say, but she did marry this guy who has a 6-year-old child and she's 16. So I'm doing some math currently. I have no idea how old he is, and he's probably not the actual love interest, right? She was like, why do you want to marry me? And he was like, I kind of want a friend. Girl, you want to hang out with 16-year-olds? It's giving James Charles, but happy for you. And that's really all my thoughts I have so far, so I'm gonna go lay down and read some more. So I'm gonna be honest, I'm struggling a little bit. At this point, it's because the main character really doesn't have a personality. She's just a vessel to tell the story. I know this book is about and for 16-year-olds, so I need to keep that with a grain of salt, but really all she ever talks about is how gross she considers herself. Because of that, she expects other people to think of her that way. So like anytime there's food around, she's like, I stuff my face and I inhale food and I glare at anyone who looks at me differently. So it's just really uncomfortable. And also there was a scene where they were on like a 10-day journey to a different kingdom, and they get attacked in the middle, and it's by like dark-skinned, war-painted people, and she calls them savages like 6 times. So it's also doing like a seemingly native savage trope, which I was like, hello? And also, we haven't really gotten to the magic of the book or like what her power is, but she has this thing, there's like a diamond in her belly button called the God Stone. So far she hasn't really explained it, but it's like if she prays hard enough, it'll make her wishes come true. It's just silly and dumb to me, and that might be the atheist speaking out, which is weird because when I read interviews with her, she was like, oh, I'm not religious. I can't see myself enjoying this book based on how it's starting out, so I kind of just want to see how it goes, but I guarantee it's gonna get 2 stars. I'm calling it right now. Okay, I have made it to page 120. I think I'm gonna have to pull the plug. I think I just can't do it. Like, when it gets to the point where I'm Googling the author and Googling reviews and like trying to figure out if I should stick with it. It's probably just time to give up. I'm so happy I didn't read this for the plus size readathon because I do not think that this is good fat representation. First of all, because I feel like this author at the time that this was written just doesn't understand what it's actually like to be fat, because this whole book is like a hyperbole. Every time she's upset, she goes and binge eats, and it's been like 4 or 5 times now that that's happened, and the most recent time she did it, she's like throwing up afterward too, which again, she just feels like such a caricature. She has no personality, she's boring, I don't care about her. All the other characters in the book are like, oh my god, Elisa, you're so smart and you're made of steel, and I'm like, no, like she has no personality. What? How? I went back and reread the synopsis because I'm like 100 pages in and I was like, what's even this book supposed to be about? And it says, savage enemies seething with dark magic are hunting her. I just don't care to read a book with like the savage native trope. And on top of that, the fat representation is awful. I've heard that she also loses the weight. I think I'm gonna consider this one a DNF. This book made me uncomfortable right off the bat, and I should have just trusted my gut instead of making it this far through, but I'm calling it quits. I can't do this one.
One eternity later.
Hey. So I haven't touched this vlog in what feels like a couple of months. That is because I took a very unexpected detour. Instead of reading all the books for this video, I had to stop and read the entire Red Queen series, and I didn't vlog them. And I was gonna put a huge disclaimer at the beginning of this vlog being like, oh my god, I started reading this before she came out as like a Zionist. But happy to say, in the last couple of weeks as I've been reading them like in the background, Victoria is now donating to like pro-Palestine organizations and doing charity fundraisers for them and stuff, which is why I'm mentioning it now. I know that being so concerned about her will probably make me a hypocrite because there are plenty of authors who still are Zionist, like Sarah J. Maas. Yeah, that being said, this series has taken over my life for the past 2 months, maybe. Every single book I gave 5 stars. I have never felt so attached to characters. The writing style was so easy to get through, the world was so easy to understand and so nice to be in. Every single character in this I was blown away by. I can't believe I cared about all of them. Even when the characters made bad decisions or were stupid or petty or mean, like it made sense why they would be that, so I still enjoyed it. I gave all of them 5 stars, and that's genuinely because there's nothing I could say about them that I disliked. Except, I can't not give this one 5 stars because the whole of it was so good. It was like 700 pages and never in my life have I wanted a book to not end so badly. But the ending of it, in comparison to the rest of the series, was so typical and expected. When I feel like Victoria has been really going above and beyond to do the unexpected, that this ending I was like, really? And then it feels like I'm missing 100 pages in my book because I have so many questions, and it feels like it just breaks off at a really awkward timing where you're not even sure if the conflict has been solved. So that being said, I do have the book of novellas that came out afterward. I'm hoping, oh, it's red and silver. Anyway, I'm hoping that this has some kind of a second epilogue. I am a sucker for an epilogue. I love crying, especially at the end of a series where everything is overly cheesy and it's like the goodbye to the reader and like the thank you for sticking around for so many years throughout the series. I have to finish that one and then I'll be done and we can resume this vlog, but I had to give you the full update on Red Queen because damn it was good. And it's one of those things where it's like, I don't expect everyone to love it, but it was like a series for me. My white man of the month is Tiberius Calor VII. And that's all that I will say. Update, I did take a break to finish Iron Flame and Broken Throne, so it is January. My final update on the Red Queen series is Broken Throne is absolutely essential. The last 200 pages are a continuation of Warstorm, so it should have just been in that book. If you read Warstorm and you're super disappointed with that ending, do not stop there. Keep going. I'm trying to prevent this from being just a Red Queen reading vlog, which I know I did read a couple of other things at the beginning of the video, but I want to do one more book. The only book that I currently have, because I rechecked it out, is Beautiful Creatures by Kimmy Garcia and Margaret Stoll. I wasn't that much into witchy literature. I wasn't into witchy books when I was a teenager, partially because I grew up in a Christian household. I wasn't really allowed to read Harry Potter or anything in that realm, so it just has never been my thing. I don't gravitate toward that. Like, even now I'm opening it and seeing there's like an incantation and I'm like, I say that, but then I'll also give me a microphone and No Good Deed from the Wicked soundtrack and I'll be in that karaoke bar like, Elakanam. I'm a little bit nervous because this book is 600 pages long. You've already been here for like 20 minutes and I don't want to keep you here for another 20. So I'm gonna start this tonight. It's 11? I thought it was like 9. It's 11 o'clock. A very humbling experience just then. My takeaway I want to understand is whether or not I think it stands up to time and if I regret having not read it sooner. So I'm gonna get started on this probably after I take off my makeup and get ready for bed because I did not realize it's that late. Hi y'all, how y'all doing? Es ist offiziell. Ich kann nicht schlafen. I can't sleep. So rather than just laying here and being like, I'm gonna fall asleep any second. Might as well give you my first reading update on Beautiful Creatures. I am like just over 100 pages. How do I describe this? Why is a man telling the story? This book I think is trying to be different by having the perspective be a guy instead of a girl, but it ends up just flip-flopping the pick-me-girl trope from a man's point of view, because instead of the girl being like, oh my god, I wear Converse and I'm so unique and special and every other girl's popular and hot and I like reading and I'm in band, now it's a guy who's on the basketball team, so all his friends are like, boys, chicks, boobs, but he's like, I want an intellectual girl. Okay, happy for you. I can tell this is not going to be a book that stands up to time. However, I'm sticking with it because I am so deadly curious on what made this such a hype and phenomenon. And second, I really have no idea what this book is about, hence why I have not given a description. My hunch is that it's something with witchcraft, so I'm just holding out to see what the hell is going on, because right now the only plot summary I can give you is that it's about this boy named Ethan who lives in this small town, and Lena, a new girl, comes to his school and is the niece of like the creepy Boo Radley-esque figure who's just this old man who never leaves the haunted mansion that he lives in, which is just like an old plantation house, and it's a small town so there's gossip, but he starts having supernatural things happen where he sees her in dreams. And importantly, might I add, he doesn't question any of that. He's like, huh, that was crazy. Can't wait to go to school and see her. And apparently since I can't sleep, get into it. Speaking of getting into things, I will be getting into a Diet Dr. Pepper. Delightful. I've said it before, but I'll say it again. If you have not experienced the hands-free Kindle lifestyle, watch this. I'm gonna be reading my book like this for the next hour. But probably with the light off. This is so ridiculous, but this is the best Friday night I'm gonna have in my entire life. Hi, happy Monday lunch break. I have my cucumber salad. If I have parsley in my teeth, ignore that for this clip, okay? I'm around page 460. I've been alternating between reading it physically and my library had a copy, so I'm reading it on my Kindle. This is the update where I tell you, not liking it, actually kind of hating it. The more I read, the more I'm like, who the hell read this and was like, movie? Maybe even more specifically, which one of these two authors knew someone at that studio they could bribe them into making it a movie? It is the weirdest, most boring, stupid book. I'm not fully at a 1 star right now just because it has kept me interested and it's not like the worst thing ever, but I'm kind of baffled because this is, first of all, so long for what it is. I know I complained earlier that like, ew, it's from a boy's point of view. The longer the book goes on, I'm like, there's genuinely no reason for you to be telling the story. There's no reason. But he's like, we have to stay together and I'm so good for you and I'm gonna help you. Girl, you know nothing about what she's going through. And he was like, when you came to town, you saved me. Saved you from what? You were just some dude on the basketball team. And the whole premise of this book is the fact that it's set in a small town. And by the way, a small town, need I add, in the South that has deep, deep, deep Confederate ties. So every character in this book is like a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution, or they have ancestors who were Confederate soldiers. So literally the Confederacy is mentioned in like every chapter of this book. And the whole plot of the book is not about the magical world or being a caster or a witch or whatever you want to call it. It's about how much the town hates her. The whole book is just a countdown to her birthday, because on her birthday you find out if she's a good or a bad witch. The entire plot is just like, oh no, wonder what's gonna happen. Like, there's no action. That's what's crazy, is we've gotten this far in the book, no action. It's only been like reveals to Ethan about what's going on, and there's these weird flashback scenes with artifacts that they find. Again, I just hate how it's all Confederate history, and there's so many plot holes, and this book is so predictable. This book has nothing going on in it, so every time that they try and like slide in a little foreshadowing that like this might be a thing later, it's so obvious because nothing else is happening in the book. I have talked many a time that I can be led over a cliff by a red herring and I do not guess books easily, but I clocked this book from 1,000 miles away. Also, it's so outdated. The writing style is so boring. There's so much fat phobia in this. Other than the fact that the Confederacy is a really big thing in here, there's also been some really sketchy lines about people of color. Like the one black woman in the town was called Exotic because she's from like the Caribbean. It has demonized mental illness because they're like, you're bipolar. This book is so weird, and I can't believe I've been reading it for this long. I guess one of the benefits is that it does go by fast. I don't even want to say that because it hasn't felt like it's gone by fast. I have so many criticisms of this book that I bet I've just touched the tip of the iceberg, but I'm gonna try and finish this tonight just to get it over with. I'm going to. Agreed. But to me, it's just ridiculous. I will say, if I was a person reading this at age 14 back in the early 2010s, I'm sure I would have gobbled it up. Maybe even now, it really pales in comparison to other YA books that do have such good plots and characters that even today I still love them. So, and the fact that this is a series, I have no idea what could even happen beyond this book because it's so boring. I'm like, how do you make 4 books out of this? Anyway, I'm gonna eat my cucumber salad and mind my business. Do we have any words from our sponsor? I wore this hair and outfit combo to the dentist just now. I'm thinking now it might look a little silly, so we're just gonna pretend I'm in my Evermore era. Well, final update. I'm done with it, and thank God. I'm gonna fully admit defeat and just make this a 1-star review. I did not like this book. The whole purpose of the book, oh, I get to take this bookmark out? Yeah. Girl, get into it. The whole purpose of the book is that they are counting down the days until Lena's 16th birthday because we're gonna find out if she's good or bad. Guess what? One, the book is like 600 pages and none of it focuses on that except for the last, I don't know, 50 pages. And when it does, there's a party and there's all this crap that happens, but then they don't solve the whole question of the book. Huh? And then it definitely sets up for a sequel. I don't understand why or what's gonna happen. Really don't even fucking care. But Ethan is so annoying. First of all, their romance is absolutely brain dead. Like, there's nothing interesting about them, especially them being together, other than just like teenage infatuation. You really don't get to see Lena's magical powers, so it's not even that much of a paranormal book. It's so anticlimactic. The writing is not good. It still centers so heavily in Confederate history. This book was terrible, and it does not stand up to time, and people who like it must only like it for the nostalgia factor, because I cannot for the life of me justify why this was a best-selling series and then became a movie. It was so bad. That's gonna be the overview of my thoughts. It is so badly written. The plot is so boring and it's not even a plot. The plot is bad, but also it's set being told from a character who's not central to the plot, so it's especially aimless. I don't know why and how I just read a 600-page book about absolutely jack shit, but here we are. 1 star, didn't like it. I wish I could finish this video off on a better note, but we're gonna have to coast on the fact that the Red Queen series was so good, and I will recommend that any day over whatever the hell this was. So my library will be happy to have this back, and I will be happy to never pick up any of the sequels or have to think about that book again. That being said, this is the tip of the iceberg. I have plenty more that I want to read that are in this genre. I didn't even touch like contemporary, so I definitely want to do a version of this that's all the contemporary books that I missed out on when I was a teenager. So let me know if you enjoyed this. If you didn't, sucks. I'm gonna do it anyway. Thank you for watching. Toodles.